Welcome to the Health Fix podcast, where health junkies get their weekly fix of tips, tools, and techniques to have limitless energy, sharp minds, and fit physiques for life. Jay Campbell, welcome to the Health Fix podcast.
Janine Krause, thank you so much for having me. I'm always humbled, privileged, and grateful when I get a chance to talk to other people who are extremely awake in this insane clown-based world that we're living in right now.
Well, it's always fun in this simulation, and we got to come up with new games. And one of the biggest games that I found to be the most beneficial for my folks when they're trying to figure out just how to live ethically in this world, peptides.
For sure.
Incredible. So I actually don't know your origination story when it comes to what was the first peptide that showed up for you that you were like, I really want to try this and see what it can do? Like, who introduced you to this?
Yeah, so great question. And I've only answered this a couple of times, but I have my, as I say, infamy on the internet. My internet infamy is from hormones, right? Like I wrote the first two biggest books on therapeutic testosterone for both men and women. First book was written in 2014, published in 2015. And then the big book, which is the TOT Bible, came out in 2018, written in 2017. A lot of people think that Jeff Bezos went from, Mr. Pencil Neck Pipsqueak to dude with the shirt off walking on yachts because he read my original book back in 2015, because it was the number one book on men's health for Amazon for like 6 months. But bottom line, in 2003, 4 years after I started using therapeutic testosterone, I was experimenting with ipamorelin, which was at the time, so this is in 2003, really the first, I would call it, research peptide that was in the quote unquote underground biohacking community, because its notoriety was that you could inject it and it would not disturb endogenous pituitary function of growth hormone release. So it was this wonder peptide in that if you were a guy using or a woman using therapeutic testosterone and you took ipamorelin, there would be great synergy because it would increase natural IGF-1 production. And because it didn't disturb the pituitary, you could inject it actually up to 3 times a day. So a lot of bodybuilders, biohackers, performance enhancement people, again, back in the infancy of the internet when the signal to noise ratio was pure signal and very little noise, were using this, and it was profound. And, I like to say this, and my wife also talks about this when she goes on podcasts or interviews. When we first met in 2012, I got her on ipamorelin, and it completely changed her physique. So much so that a lot of people in her family and her inner circle, she was a successful residential real estate person, accused me of putting her on steroids. And she was literally just on ipamorelin, and she probably lost over 6 months, she probably lost 6 or 7 pounds of body fat. But it just really changed her physique. It just, made her waist much leaner. She got much more muscle definition throughout her body. I mean, she was always she knew how to train, and she was an intense lifter, and et cetera, but she never could change her body naturally like that until she got on ipamorelin. So that was really my first peptide, but I started using, most of the peptides that your audience is familiar with, as far back as 2008, 2007, 2009. That's when I started using BPC, TB500, the melanotans. And then obviously as it's progressed, as more and more peptides have become commercially available, I've used pretty much everything.
Nice. Yeah, right now, I mean, in the normie world, the GLPs are peptides.
Exactly.
That's all, most folks know. And I've been trying to kind of bring in, ipamorelin for me also changed my physique. That was one of my big intros, BPC 157, because of just working in the pain realm with a lot of folks. I quit using stem cell and a lot of even the PRP once I saw how the BPC could do for folks in acute situations, and I was just like, wow, I'm down here. Yeah.
Well, because you don't know this, or maybe you do know this, I don't know, but my book on GLPs comes out February 24th, and it is without a doubt, and you know me, I don't say this lightly, it is my magnum opus. It is a book that should change the world. Now, obviously, it's probably 3 years too late because, like you said, every normie who's fat knows what a GLP is. Now, the problem is that, and obviously all of this is addressed in the book, but the problem is that 95% of people who use GLPs use them incorrectly. And because of that, they've gotten this horrible rap in the mainstream, right? All the celebrity doctors, all the celebrity influencers and gurus talk shit about them and say they're horrible and they cause thyroid damage and metabolic dysfunction and Wegovy face and Wegovy neck and Wegovy ass and et cetera, et cetera. And all that is true. But it's true because the pharmaceutical industry does not want people to use these drugs to improve their health. They want them to be addicted to them so that they blow out their receptors and stay on them forever, and obviously take higher and higher and higher dosages so that they pay more money to the pharmaceutical industry, more money to the quack doctor who doesn't tell them how to use it right. And so it's just this vicious cycle. And all of this stuff is covered in the book. And, I'll just tell you right now and tell your audience, it's 720 pages as of right now, with 1,400 scientific references. So I actually beat all of the published research to death. I examine all of the side effects. We go into depth about why they happen, how they're avoidable, how to actually not have those side effects. And then we get into, okay, and I know you already know this and most of your audience does too, but microdosing is the way. How do we microdose these? What do we do from a lifestyle component to enhance the experience? And then, what are the other things that we can do as we become a master of using GLPs to literally change our lifestyle? Now, look, I mean this when I say this. People in my inner circle, which unfortunately these days has gotten too big. I need a giant fly swatter. But the reality is that everyone who uses these within the context of health and longevity dramatically transforms their life. And when I say that, I really mean that. I have a chapter in the book that's called The Transformations, and it's 16 men and women from all over the world, all walks of life, all sorts of disciplines. There's like a guy worth 250 million, and then there's people that are like, barely able to make ends meet. But they have a before and after, and then they have their story in their own words of like what it's meant to them to go from, 420 pounds to 180 pounds as a man, or 290 pounds as a woman to 120 pounds as a woman. And obviously the words are amazing. I mean, everyone who's read the book, and there's been a good number of people that have previewed it now, have all said to me, Jay, that the transformation chapter is astonishing. Like, it's so amazing, right? So I really want people to get to that chapter. Like, I'll say this, right? There's chapter 2 and chapter 3, Janine, are very technical because we really go through the science of the studies and we go through the side effects. But then after that, it really becomes really awesome reading because it's obviously teaching people how to do it right. And we really go to a point of like, do this, do that, do this and not that. But at the end of every chapter is the key findings. And the key findings are like the summary takeaways. So it's kind of like, like you and I know this because the old school books, but it's like it's the cheat sheet, right? It's like, read this if you can't read all the rest of the stuff because you just want the summary. And so obviously I did that because I knew that there were some chapters that were really, really technical with the analysis and the research. The publishing company cut 240 pages out of the book.
Oh my
so
God.
It was a 900-page book because, again, we don't want to miss anything. There's so many idiots, deadpanning these products, and they have no understanding that they actually can cure obesity. Now, my mission in my life at 50, I'll be 55 on February 24th, is to cure obesity. My mom died of obesity. She really died of COVID in 2023 because, they gave her remdesivir and, the whole story. I don't have to go down that rabbit hole, but so many obese, comorbid, inflamed, insulin-resistant people were killed during COVID. As they say, the useless eaters, right? That's what they referred to them as. And, I was like, there's got to be a way to end obesity. And to fast forward the data, because obviously all of this I know from the book, by 2032, we expect the number one cause of death will be obesity. And the amount of people that will be dying per day is like 4 million will be dying per day from just obesity, right? So it's like, if we can put these drugs, which are obviously, you already know about GLP-2 and GLP-3, and GLP-3, which is retatrutide, will be approved by Eli Lilly, by the FDA at some point this year. I mean, that means nothing, right? Because it's been a research chemical for 3 years and all the biohacking community has been using it. But it's such a profound drug that if we could make it accessible to everyone, we could cure obesity. I mean, I tell people this, and I really mean this. if you understand how to use these drugs, there is no way that you can be fat. You literally can eat whatever the fuck you want. As long as you exercise and you take care of yourself, you can eat pizza and ice cream and drink Mountain Dew. Now, you can't consume lots of alcohol and smoke a lot of weed, right? And a lot of people want to do that. But you can live a very conducive life to not being a Spartan and, you know, eating keto or carnivore, and just remain metabolically flexible and eat whatever the fuck you want and use these drugs and be shredded year round. I mean, my wife and I, like I said, are 55 years old and we don't ever have high body fat, and we eat whatever we want, but we know how to microdose these, you know, medications to literally alter our body composition from, you know, mostly muscle and very low fat. Now, obviously, I don't expect every person to walk around with a six pack. That's not the goal. But if we can literally be metabolically healthy and strong and vigorous, you know, into our 50s, 60s, and 70s, that's what I want. And right now, I mean, look at this. You know how bad it is in the United States right now. If you fly first class, you can't get off the plane. There are so many people who are obese waiting for wheelchairs that it's become a disgrace in America. And this is where we're going. I mean, nobody talks about this, but I'm like, hey, man, we got to teach people how to use these things, because we can avoid all of this if these people know how to use it. The medical system doesn't give a rat's ass. They're not going to teach people how to use these correctly. You know, today or yesterday, Trump released Trump RX, which is a scam in and of itself, because they're like lowering the prices of all these drugs. But where is the education? There's no education. Oh, let's just make the prices lower. And by the way, if you read the fine print, the prices are lower for 2 months. And then they bait and switch you back up to the high prices. I mean, you can see it right in the ad. It's on Twitter. I could screen share it and show you right now. It's such a scam. But it's like, why are we not educating the doctors first? Because they're fucking clueless. And then the patients after the doctors understand how to use these. Because as you know, knowledge or education without application is useless. And these people do not understand how to use these. They listen to the pharma rep. The pharma rep says start them at 6 milligrams a week or 8 milligrams a week or whatever it is, and then just go like this.
Just keep going on.
Toast. Until they're toast. Every one of these people is toast. Metabolic haywire, hair falls out, thyroid damage, face collapses. I mean, it's like a big joke in the newspapers when they show people with Wegovy face.
Yeah.
And all of it is avoidable. I mean, I know people get so mad at me when I tell them this, because they've been so brainwashed by the mainstream media that it's not avoidable. Oh, no, that's not true. The studies show that you get muscle loss. You don't get muscle loss. I interview some of the leading experts in the world. If you eat enough protein, if you make sure you're hormonally optimized and balanced, and you actually resistance train, you're not going to have any muscle loss. I don't have any muscle loss. I've been using these things for 5 years. So it's just insane. I mean, you know this. It's the haves and the have-nots. We have people that have the information and they apply it, and it's like, holy shit, greatest thing ever. And then we have the idiots. And the idiots are the noise, the loud complainers and screamers. And then you get the celebrity doctors that jump onto it and say, these are the worst things ever. I mean, how many people do you hear keep saying that it's reptilian venom?
I have heard that.
I talked about that in the book.
Oh.
These people don't even know how drugs are made. Drugs come from reptiles and mammals and birds. It's retarded. I mean, we're just, you know this. I mean, obviously you got me so fired up. This is so awesome.
I love it.
But we live in this world now where, and we haven't even talked about AI, we have to. And by the way, I want to say this, 0 AI in this book. Nice. We did not summarize anything with AI. So many times the two copywriters and myself, we wanted to, you know, because you're in the Google document, it says summarize with AI, you know, key findings. You know, one time, one of my copywriters goes, let's just do it on a separate document. No, we're not going to hallucinate or regurgitate what we created naturally with our brains, right? But so the truth is that people are living in a world right now, Janine, that is mostly made up. Do you realize that AI, because of my peptide expertise, has a huge section on me in all of them. So we play this game, a couple of my friends, we'll like ask Perplexity, Claude, Grok, and ChatGPT. We'll ask it like, okay, here's a question for Jay Campbell, answer it as Jay Campbell, and we'll give it 6 different questions, and every single answer is wrong. Every single answer. So imagine when you scale that to mainstream consciousness across the planet, how bad people's brains are declining and IQs are lowering because they're literally being told lies and falsehoods. It's insane, the world that we live in right now. Completely insane. You cannot rely on AI for anything. I tell people this, like, you cannot rely on it. Sure, you can do a Google search and look at the AI summary, but if that's what you think is correct and you don't do any more work or research on that, you're going to be deceived. It's that simple. You will be deceived.
I'm floored by how many people will bring me in printouts as a doctor consult. They will bring me in the printouts like, look, I put everything in ChatGPT, and I'm like, awesome. Well, we're going to use that as like a baseline of just there it is, and then we're going to actually use my brain. Yep, my brain as what actually works here. But it's like, it's the Google doctor of the old days. It's the same shit. It's just repeating. And it just maybe a little more insidious pattern here in this case. Which is fun because I don't know if you've put in, with, like you said, with your questions with peptides, I put it in just to see what my patients might be asking. And so I'll put it in as like, I want to use BPC 157 and I want to use it for this, whatever. And it comes out with very interesting and very like, it is not FDA approved and, stuff like that. So here we are trying to, educate a little. Now, when it comes to working with, Retta or whatever what's your favorite out of those 3 of those, by the way? Which one do you like the best for yourself?
That's an awesome question. No, that's an awesome question. And let's just break it down for your audience. And by the way, you're the only second podcast I've done talking about the book and the only one that actually knows how to ask me the right questions. So you're setting me up for perfect. So I cover all of everything. Well, let me just take a step back. So obviously the audience that listens to you and mostly me knows that there's GLP-1, GLP-2, GLP-3. Let's define that. GLP-1 is obviously semaglutide, which is known as Wegovy. I forget, there's another generic of it. And then there's GLP-2, which is tirzepatide, which people know as Zepbound or Mounjaro. And then there's GLP-3, which is not FDA approved yet, but it's being used everywhere as a research chemical around the world, and that's retatrutide. And that's obviously, that patent is owned by Lilly, who also owns the patent for tirzepatide, which is obviously Zepbound and Mounjaro, right? And then Novo Nordisk owns the semaglutide Wegovy patent. And so that's GLP-1, GLP-2, GLP-3. Now, so people understand what that means. GLP-1 means appetite suppression. GLP-2 means appetite suppression and glucagon stimulation, which is like an increase in metabolic rate, right? So it's increasing your metabolism. And then GLP-3, which is obviously the greatest drug. This is, by the way, published research-wise, not my opinion, but I mean, I agree with it because of my use of it. It's the greatest drug in the history of medicine because it does so many amazing things that it's not even designed to do. And I'll get to that in a second. But GLP-3 means appetite suppression, glucagon stimulation, and insulin signaling improvement, right? So you got a 3-fold thing, which if you understand why obesity happens, those are it, right? It's like people eat too much, their metabolism crashes, they're hormonally dysregulated, and then they become insulin resistant, right? So now you're giving them a drug that improves all those things. So if they change their lifestyle, which obviously most people today are very reluctant to change their lifestyle. They want the easy button. They want the Instacart or the, Uber Eats or, DoorDash. They just want, push the button and I want instant gratification, right? So you do have to change your lifestyle to use these products. But obviously once you do, this is why they're so amazing in getting into retatrutide. They change the brain wiring. So if you are addicted to shitty foods, right? And we know this is a known thing. The major food companies or corporations spend literally billions yearly to create these hyper-palliative, addictive chemicals on the French fries and the cereal and all these horrible foods that people then become addicted to, right? So again, supersize me, right? Like, let me get the biggest size and let me just keep overeating. And they're not overeating because they're hungry. They're overeating because their brain tells them to overeat, right? So now you have this amazing drug, GLP-3, that not only improves nutrient partitioning, improves metabolism and suppresses appetite, it also changes the bad shit that the hyper addictive and palliative chemicals are doing to the brain so that you don't need the shit anymore. Like, your brain just says, you know what? I don't need to smoke weed. I don't need to drink a bottle of wine at night. I don't need to sit here and eat 4 McDonald's cheeseburgers when I could have half. You know what I mean? So it's so amazing. And by the way, when I say this and people are listening to this on a podcast, this is not my opinion. This is in published medical research, thousands, not hundreds, thousands of studies that are already out there from stage 2 and stage 3 of retatrutide, and hence why it's going to be approved for use very soon. The estimate is probably second quarter of this year. And Janine, I can assure you of this, because again, I've been using this product since 2023 in the summer when it literally first came out as a research chemical. My wife uses it. My 16-year-old daughter is now 18, and she was using it, and it changed her. She lost like 7 pounds of like fat, genetic fat, because of like, she has my mom's side of the genetics, and that the women in the family get like those, cottage cheese dimples. Like, they can be in great shape, but they get those little dimples of cellulite, like between the hamstring and the glute tie-in area. And so it's like, I gave my daughter a microdose of retatrutide when she was cheering, and within 6 weeks, that fat was gone, never to come back, right? So like, the reality of these drugs is, again, all the things that they do that which I already explained, and they're also changing brainwave patterning, dendritic, serotonergic, what is the other one? Dopaminergic, right? So all 3 of the brainwave patterns are being changed to be better, right? That's the best way to say it. Like, you don't have obsessive compulsive desires anymore. It just literally says to you, you know what? You don't need that. I mean, it really is like a self-correct, autocorrect from abusing your body with poor food choices. Or even not just, it's not for food, it's behaviors. Like, I've heard of guys who are addicted to porn, no interest in porn anymore. Addicted to alcohol, totally. And again, in the studies, addicted to alcohol, addicted to weed, addicted to vaping, smoking, change brainwave patterning, not interested in this, right? So again, when you understand all of this, and then you also, and this is obviously most important, understand how to use them, which is the big misnomer, then all of a sudden everything changes and it radically improves your life. And so like, I think people, where this is going is retatrutide, again, if you're a smart person, which obviously most of the people listening to you are, they already know how to get it, right? They go to BioLongevity Labs. Now, we stopped selling it. I'll get to that in a second, but we sold it all last year. We sold it the 3 months before when we launched, but we stopped selling it because our attorneys were meeting with some higher ups in the FDA food chain, and they were like, you guys don't want to be selling retatrutide in the year that it's approved, because they're probably going to come after anyone who's selling it because you don't have the express use right of Lilly to sell it, right? So we stopped selling it, but it's still out there. And my chemists and chemical formulators are already making a new small molecule product that will be better than retatrutide. It will bind harder. You can use a smaller dose, and you probably only have to dose once every 2 months, right? So that's coming. Nice. But the reality of it is that this drug, if we made it accessible to the public, and obviously they won't because they want people to pay $2,000 a month or whatever the fuck it's going to be outrageous because if it works so well, which is going to limit its access. But if we made this drug, Janine, available to the public globally, we would end obesity. That's how powerful this medication is. Now, again, like I said to you, in addition to making it accessible, we have to make education universal. My book is just a first step, but we have to educate clinicians. We have to educate functional health providers. All of these people have to understand how this drug should be dosed, how it should be titrated, how it should be cycled, all the other things that we have to do from a lifestyle component to make it work as well and as effective as it is. So all those things would just have to be part and parcel to making it accessible, but there's no reason that we can't. But, again, like you said at the beginning, this is the matrix. And the pharmaceutical companies don't want people to be healthy. They want people addicted to their medications, paying an outrageous, enormous, crazy amount every single month, and staying on them for life. And that's what I write about in the book. Like, you won't be addicted to these drugs for life. You don't have to stay on them for life. But yes, you can microdose them year round. And obviously I give strategies and I tell you exactly how I use it, how my wife uses it, how thousands of people I've worked with and recommended online use it. But it's up to you. Some people can get completely cured. They use it to lose 10 pounds of fat or stubborn, belly fat or baby fat or butt fat or leg fat that they could never get off naturally. And then they were like, hey, I got it off. I'm done. I already have a clean lifestyle. I already know what to do. I know how to eat insulin controlled. I'm metabolically efficient, metabolically healthy now. And so I don't need to use this. But like I said, like my wife and I are very, very lean people. We obviously walk around like that. As influencers, we show our physiques all the time, year round. And so we're, again, as one of my spiritual mentors say, be a living demonstration, right? So it's like, the truth is that if you want to look like us, these things make it much easier, right? And that's what I talk about in the book, that 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 6 years ago, before these things were available, if you were anybody who wanted to walk around with a six-pack in your 50s, it was not easy. And nowadays, and I'm kind of letting the secret out of the bag, it's pretty easy if you have a brain, because that's how amazing these drugs are. Now, obviously, you can't be in fear of them. I've got a lot of really, really smart, sophisticated, affluent people who are in my network, and, they've told me to my face, either in text, phone calls, Zoom calls, whatever, I won't use those because of blank side effect, right? And insert it, right? I don't want to go blind. I don't want to have thyroid damage. I don't want to have bladder damage or parathyroid. I mean, I've heard it all, right? So it's like I address that in the very beginning of the book, and I go through every single known side effect in the published research. And we examine why they happen, how to avoid it, and then how to fix it. And here's the truth. And these are the two things, and I'm giving you something that no one else knows, and this is in the book. The two reasons that side effects happen: number one, the dosing is inexact, incorrect, too high, which is, again, 98% of doctor-prescribed GLP peptides, 98%. And then number two, poor lifestyle. Now, number two is part and parcel to number one, right? Because if number one was right, they would tell these people how to be changing their lifestyle to make the drug work, but they don't give a shit. They don't give a shit. The docs literally go to a weekend clinic and posted by the pharmaceutical reps, and say, this is what we want you to dose it at. This is what we want you to keep them at. This is where we want you to go. 10 days later, it's like this. Boom. Whack out their receptors, make them feel like shit, collapse their face, collapse their ass, collapse their neck. Again, the memes that we've all seen, but then just keep them hooked on it because now they don't understand, hey, I lost weight. Because look, and we talk about this in the book. When you first take this as an obese, insulin resistant person, you lose weight because you know what happens, right? They stop eating. Mm-hmm. They stop eating. And when I say they stop eating, these people will go 10 days to 14 days without food. Now imagine what happens, right? I mean, come on. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. All the negative side effects, all the things that people talk about that are horrible happen. But if you're an uneducated normie, you said the word, so I'll use it again, and you know nothing about nutrition. You're a college degreed person, sophisticated, six-figure wage earner, and you learned absolutely diddly squat in high school or college about nutrition. You think that if you don't eat, then that's great. I lose weight. And they see it, right? The first 5 days to 7 days to 10 days, the weight falls off of them. Their stomach gets smaller. They're like, this is great. I'm not eating. And then 10 days later, you know what happens, right? But so if we understand that that doesn't have to happen if we take a microdose, we still have a normal lifestyle. We still eat, hopefully correctly because you understand how to eat correctly. Now you have more energy because of the brainwave change to lift, to exercise, to do cardio, to understand that your sleep is important, that you're not eating a giant meal of fucking McDonald's and, French fries at 10:30 at night. Because again, that's preventing you, the drug is preventing you from doing that. Then all the great stuff happens and all these amazing changes happen to our bodies and to our minds, and we transform. And that's why these drugs are so powerful. But again, it's education. We really have to educate the clinicians first, and then the people should be obviously not just my book, but listening to other people that understand how to use them correctly. And thankfully, there are enough clinicians now that do recommend microdosing. They do tell them you cannot start with the pharmaceutical amounts. And I think the biggest misnomer, which I haven't said yet, is even if you're obese, you can still use a microdose. See, the docs that are trying to make money and trying to counter people like me are saying, Jay Campbell is full of shit. He's not a doctor. He talks about microdosing, but you're a fat person and you're insulin resistant and it's not going to work for you. That's a lie. The studies show that microdosing works for everyone. It's just that we have to start them at those dosages so that their bodies develop a chemical, proficiency on understanding what it's doing versus whacking out the receptors, which is the pharmaceutical way. And look, the pharmaceutical companies don't give a shit. They don't have a hat in this. They're like, Jay Campbell can teach people how to use microdoses. There's other people doing it too. They use my name a lot. But at the end of the day, the studies show that 6 milligrams or 8 milligrams or 12 milligrams is the way, and that people don't have to change their lifestyle. They can just take the high dose forever. Of course they want them to take the high dose forever because that's how they get paid. But that's the amazing thing, Janine, is that the study that came out on retatrutide in late December, which was really the final third stage or stage 3 trial study, it showed a 71-pound weight loss over 58 weeks consecutively of 12 milligrams a week of the dose. And by the way, all the people in the study did not exercise. They did not change their diet. They did nothing. They just lived like dumpster fires, insulin resistant, metabolically deranged dumpster fires, and they still lost 71 pounds. So you understand the value of how insanely amazing retatrutide really is. But then my argument, and obviously I make a good point of this in the book, is that now, okay, great, we know this. Now imagine actually living a conducive lifestyle combined with a microdose of this medication, and what is going to happen to you. You're going to look like a changed person. And then all those people in the book that talk about the transformations talk about that. And by the way, you don't have to have retatrutide. That's the ultimate one. But GLP-2 is pretty close, right? GLP-1, which is obviously Mounjaro and not Mounjaro, Wegovy and semaglutide, and what most people are using because that's what their benefits give them, is almost irrelevant at this point. Now, a lot of doctors get mad at me when I say that. But it's true because, who gives a shit about appetite suppression when you can improve insulin signaling and nutrient partitioning, right? My co-payment won't pay for Mounjaro, and retatrutide isn't FDA approved, right? So it's like, I hear all that, but it's like, okay, well, great. But in the world today, you can get from point A to point B in a BMW and a Toyota Camry. There's one that's a lot more fun to drive and more exciting, right? So it's up to you, right? You could use semaglutide with your copayment, but all it does is make you nauseous and literally suppresses your appetite when you have the other ones that can do none of that stuff and actually make you leaner faster. So it really just comes down to the end user's choice.
Now, I don't even recommend the semaglutides. I'm like, why? There's no point. It does it to me. It's
Same
no point.
thing. Completely useless. But it's the doctors.
Yeah.
It's insurance subrogation.
Yeah.
It's the first one on the Trump ad. And I love how they show it, by the way. I was literally just looking at this. Hold on. It shows, hold on. I was just looking. There it is. It shows Wegovy pill, $13.49 with a line through it, and then it says $149 now a month. And then it's the injectable, right? Because we got to show them the pill first, right? Because we know we're afraid of needles. So then they show the Wegovy pen, $14.49, now only $199 a month. It's just, dude, it's insane, the fear porn.
Let's talk about pill versus injection for a second, because that's the thing that kills me with this whole situation and talking with people about it.
So the pill is brand new. And the science, we don't even spend a lot of time in the book about it, because I'm just going to tell you right now, the science with the pill says it's shit. It says it causes more side effects and nausea. And you have to take, remember, and I'll explain this in a second, but you have to take 5 times the dose of an oral GLP than an injectable. And the reason this is very simply, all injectable peptides, or all peptides, are the highest impact delivery system is injectable because of 2 reasons. 1, it crosses the blood-brain barrier the fastest. And 2, it gets into portal circulation, so it's absorbed, systemically fastest, right? When you take a pill of anything, whether it's a supplement, a drug, a GLP peptide, you're dealing with all these uncontrollable, just call them variances, like eating food and insulin release and all these other things that will prevent the actual drug from being absorbed, through the liver, through the small intestine, etc. So injectable is always going to work better than the pill. And I just tell people, and I mean this, the Wegovy pill is useless. When you look at the side effects that people experience on the Wegovy pill versus the Wegovy injection, and we both know the Wegovy injection to you and me is useless, right? Because again, it's just appetite suppression. But the side effects are 4 to 6x the injectable form of semaglutide, which, by the way, is already the highest side effect GLP. We didn't say that, but that's another reason why we'll say, like, you know what? Don't use that anymore. It does work. It does suppress appetite, but it also makes a lot of people nauseous. And when you take the high dose that these idiots are recommending, everyone is nauseous. That's why they don't fucking eat for 2 weeks. I mean, imagine literally not eating and being an obese, insulin-resistant, metabolic deranged person and not wanting to eat. Think about what it's doing to your receptors in your brain and in your gut that says, oh, I don't want to eat that. You know what I mean? And you walk away nauseous, which obviously none of that is healthy, but that's what has happened. So again, you're right. I have to say that at this point, if you're still using semaglutide, you should change. There are better options. And by the way, we didn't say this, but let's talk about this. The last chapter in the book is what's in the pipeline. It's a bonus chapter. It's actually the biggest chapter in the book. I put it at the end because it was like so exhausting to read through. But I say this at the very beginning of the chapter. I say, guys, this is incredible stuff. And by the way, just so you know, I interview one of the world's leading GLP-1 physicians. In fact, he writes the foreword. His name is Dr. Rudolph Eberwein. He's been prescribing GLP since 2008. Him and his wife own this giant obesity clinic in South Beach, Florida. He works with indigenous. He's an amazing man. Shout out to Rudy. And, he's seen the evolution of these drugs until now. But, he talks about doctors are guilty of malpractice, and he says all of them are, that don't teach their patients the lifestyle habits that must come with using GLPs because they are such powerful drugs, right? So he talks about that. But the truth is that, and this is what we both say in the book, it's kind of crazy, that what we recommend now, Janine, in 2 years could be irrelevant. Yeah. Retatrutide could be literally useless in 2 years. We are in a biochemical or biomolecular golden age. It's a renaissance. And all these drug companies are making all of these amazing, call them agents, small molecules, medications, interventions, whatever, that completely can change the metabolic cascade in the body and in a way that's conducive to long-term health and safety. So retatrutide, as great as it is, may be completely irrelevant in 2 years. And so we talk a lot of those drugs because they're already in stage 1. Some of them are in stage 2. There's even a few in stage 3. And so we're literally looking at GLP-4, GLP-5, GLP-6. Right. And for the real nuts that listen to you, because I'm sure they're going to be like, Jay, what is a GLP-4? What is a GLP-5? Right. A GLP-4 is a myostatin inhibitor added on. Right. So what does that mean? It will literally allow you to not lose muscle. Like you actually build muscle on these. Right. And then that would be GLP-4. And then GLP-5 would be the myostatin inhibitor. And then a brown adipose tissue stimulator. Right. So like you're increasing what is white adipose tissue, which is obviously metabolically accelerated muscle tissue that you spontaneously create like in the upper back or the lower back. So it's like all these amazing things are coming. And I would assume they really are within 2 years of being able to be used. So it's like all these recommendations that I make of retatrutide being the greatest drug ever to end obesity, it'll probably be circumnavigated by something better, within a couple of years. And so again, that's why I say, like, if you're a smart person and you understand what's going on, you really want to educate yourself on how to use these, because these really will be the key to living to 150. Living to 140. I mean, again, think about this. And by the way, I didn't say this, and I should. I'm letting more out of the bag about this book. All of my biomarkers have improved. So for all the weirdos who are like, there's no studies in the long-term, ramifications, and Jay Campbell could be full of shit, and he could fall over and die. That's not, yeah, sure, I could get hit by a bus in an hour, right? But all of my biomarkers, which I track twice a year since I've been 29 years old, since I first started therapeutic testosterone. So almost 26 years this year. My biomarkers have never been better. All of my inflammatory markers are the lowest they've ever been. My cholesterol, my ratio is insane. Like my triglycerides are I almost have none. My small particles are amazing. My ApoB, my ApoA, all of those things are amazing. So it's like, it's not just what I say and how I look, it's also the internal workings, right? So again, that's what these drugs do, and that's what the future is. So that's why I say, like, it's really, really important, if you really care about your long-term health and safety or happiness, that you really understand how to manipulate these and use these in your own lifestyle, because there's nothing like them ever before in the history of medical science. Nothing.
I agree. I've had people, the cholesterol came down after trying all the things, and definitely I'm not in the camp of recommending statins, for it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And so I'm impressed. Like, I've got so many folks having so many changes, and myself included. And I'm like, that speaks for itself.
There's so many celebrity influencers who consult with me or are led to me, because I'm really kind of the loudest voice, I think, preaching about these things, who have changed their stance, after hearing me speak to them directly about this. And again, so many people, as you know, Janine, listen to the headlines. Mm-hmm. And then instead of, really doing the research, they just start making content on the headlines. And I've had some I won't mention their names, but some really mega famous people completely change their stance and their direction about these things. And obviously now, they message me all the time and like, hey, dude, can you get me 25 vials of retatrutide? I'm like, we don't sell it anymore. He's like, yeah, but you're Jay Campbell. You can get it. I'm like, here, I need you to go to this email. You know what I mean? But it's like, it's awesome that we are doing this. I don't know how much of an impact I will make, but obviously, as I told you, my goal really is very humanitarian. It is to get as many people, access to these medications, to not be obese, to not be metabolically dysregulated, to enjoy their life. Because look, we didn't say this, and I know you know this. This gets me sometimes teared up, but the average obese person, not the average, every obese person is literally living in a default state of suffering. Their body is a cytokine storm 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's so sad. Like, that's why the whole, any weight is healthy, fat acceptance nonsense is absolute utter dog shit, because these people are suffering, right? And I know a lot of them, I don't want to, say they're a different person. They're humans just like us. There's no difference, but they are different because they literally live in a state of suffering. Yeah. So if we can help them, by teaching them how to use these tools. And see, the other thing is, and I didn't mention this, if you use these tools correctly, you will actually be motivated to exercise, to be motivated to change your lifestyle habits, because that's what it's doing to your brain. It's actually giving these people energy, right? And then if you get them hormonally optimized, because we haven't mentioned this, or get them on mitochondrial stuff, like a MOTS-C, like a 5-amino, like an NAD+, like all these other things, dude, they're so excited. They're like, holy shit, I never knew that life could be this great. I want to go to the gym because all of their mitochondria are turned off. They've got infections in their microbiome. They've got all this shit growing, because again, they're addicted to the hyperpalatability aspect of foods. And so they eat shitty food all the time. I mean, I used to watch my mom go to the corner at get-togethers. My mom was 300 plus pounds and she was 5'6". And she would just turn around and stuff like 3 slices of bread in her mouth. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, like I said, it tears me up, but there's so many people that are addicted to food and cannot turn off the food noise and cannot stop this incessant, urge to overeat, to stuff their face. Again, they've got shit growing in their microbiome, right? So it's like, wow, Jay, we have an actual antidote. We have an actual tool and a weapon against all of this. Why are we not making this affordable? Why are we not making it public knowledge on how to use these things? Why are people left in the dark? Well, we know why, because the fucking reptilians govern this world. But we have enough power between ourselves and our voices and our podcasts and our audiences to teach people there's another way. And so that's why I'm so amazingly happy and excited to come on podcasts right now to teach people like, hey dudes, you guys can use these drugs and completely change your life. And every single person that does is part of that 10th monkey or 12th monkey, where now they can send it to one other person and then one other person. And obviously it just expands exponentially from there. And so that's the whole key right now, I think, with teaching people that these drugs are profound and they are life-changing and transformative, but we just have to educate people on how to use them correctly.
100%. 100%. And you highlighted a little bit of something that I think for a lot of people, that food noise component, like
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many women that have told me like I have my life back because I'm not constantly thinking about food. And so now we've got people who are conscious, who are awake, and we can raise the vibe.
Exactly. And that's actually a key thing too, is that, and I never knew this until recently, and I should say like recently, COVID, post-COVID, right before COVID, I had my spiritual awakening in Peru in 2018, my true spiritual awakening. I mean, I've always been awake, but like, it was like, wait a minute, there's a bigger picture here and meaning and purpose for what I'm doing. And that is when you get physically aligned and you have low body fat and no inflammation, now you're able to receive the downloads, right, from the divine, from the collective universal consciousness, however you want to, consider your spirit, God, source, whatever. And now you have a bigger mission of helping, because when you just said it, when you're obese and you're metabolically dysregulated and you're a flaming dumpster fire of just insulin resistance and cytokine storms, you can't receive downloads. You're in so much pain and suffering and just disorientation at all times. So it's like, and you think about this because we didn't say this. I mean, this is the way they want us.
Yes.
When you're like that, you're programmable, you're mind controlled, you're entrained. The only thing you think about is fucking eating every 2.5 hours or 2 hours. Right? You don't have any other thoughts. You're not creating, you're not serving mankind. You're not building things that humanity, desires or could use. You're literally in a state of suffering. And when you're in a state of suffering, what are you serving? Self. You're not serving others, you're serving self. And so that's the way they want us. And that's why you see the rise in obesity, the rise in insulin resistance, the rise in all these chemical, castrations of all of our young men and all of our young women. And, I mean, God, I could keep going. I mean, the whole AI now, the screens, people are just getting dumber and more disconnected from what matters. And it's just, it bothers me so much. I mean, obviously I'm very passionate about speaking about this, but the first step is physicality, getting your physical health to a point where you can actually receive downloads, where you can connect with, source, God, universal consciousness, and literally then attempt to understand that you are part of a bigger picture. And that the reason you're here is to serve. All of us are here to serve. It's just some of us find that out earlier than others, based on the things that we learn, based on mentorship. But it's like, man, I just don't know a bigger task right now than teaching people the value of getting their health optimized, because everything else will come naturally and fall into place when you have your health optimized. I really don't think there's any other way. I really say this all the time. I don't think you can be a gigantic, again, metabolically dysregulated, obese person and be spiritually optimized. I think it's impossible. I don't think that they're conjunctive.
Nope, I don't think so either. I think this is the key here. We have to help folks optimize so that we can,
yes,
rise, like you say, raise the vibration collectively. That's
it. That's literally it. I mean, that's, they're constantly doing psyops, like you and I talked about off air before the show started. I mean, this whole Epstein files release is to collectively gaslight all of us, to say you have no power, but we do have power. The power is by opting out of that bullshit, turning it off, not reading it, and working on yourself. As you know, it's an inside job. Everything is an inside job. We can, obviously this is the Hawkins scale of consciousness. You can stay down here in victim, shame, guilt, blame, humiliation, destruction, or you can move your shit up into reason, acceptance, understanding, and forgiveness. It's up to you. Every single day you get to choose. Just like they say the sun will come up tomorrow, every single day is an opportunity to change your thoughts. Our thoughts create our reality. Our thoughts become things. Why would you ever have negative thoughts? Why would you ever not have a resonant idea or a resonant viewpoint in life? And look, I know it's not easy. I mean, I know that I had a negative disposition until I was 42 years old. I didn't understand the law of attraction. I didn't understand the idea that smiling and being grateful and shaking people's hands and looking them in the eyes and being like, so nice to meet you. I didn't understand how important that was to actually get the same treatment back. Literally everything is energy. What you give off is what you get back. It's that simple. There's no negotiation behind that. If you are an asshole and you treat people with disrespect, inhumanity, etc., that's what you get back. And you get the opposite back if you do the opposite. So again, why wake up in the morning with a sour disposition? And I know it's not easy, because I know I did for 42 years of my life. But once I realized that everything was based on how I treated the world and others, which is obviously, as you know, really just a reflection of how you treat yourself, then everything changes. And I swear, I don't care who you are, if you're watching this right now and you're rock bottom emotionally, rock bottom financially, rock bottom with every definable asset, you can literally wake up tomorrow morning and change your thoughts and be within 1 year 100x for where you feel right now. It's all here. That's it. It's here too. It's in the heart, but it's literally first changing your thoughts to get to a place where your heart is serving first and you are heart focused.
So huge. So huge. Jay, with that, I think we got a mic drop on that one. That was so
Beautiful.
good.
Thank you so much for letting me talk and really pontificate. I'm so grateful. I had a goal in 2025 in December of doing 75 podcasts this year, about this. And thank you for the opportunity to speak. And you really set me up awesomely. So I'm really grateful, Janine. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Jay. I have no doubt folks are going to love this. Now, of course, you've teased the book so much that we have to make sure that you repeat again when folks can be looking for it. And then, of course, I'm guessing jcampbell.com, but give us all the outlets and possibilities to find it.
Yeah. So first off, thank you from my heart to your heart. I'm very humbly honored to be here today. Whenever I get a chance to speak to resonant souls, it's amazing for me. I probably sucked some of your amazing resonant energy out. So thank you. I'm in a time in my life with my business right now with Bio Longevity Labs. We're going through all sorts of scaling issues right now. So it was very good for me and very cathartic. If you guys find value in what I talked about here today, couple things. Number one, go to jcampbell.com/free-info, and you can get a downloadable PDF copy of any of my books for free. The Metabolic Awakening with GLP-1 Peptides is not there yet, but it will probably be there by the end of March. The book is publicly available. It will be available in audio, hardback, paperback, Kindle, and then obviously what they know now is called the digital print edition, which is kind of like a digital PDF for color. And then we're also going to do, which I'm actually starting this weekend, we're going to do a video format because, as you know, most people can't really read today, they'll probably read the key findings or the summary of the book, right? But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make a video portion of the book, and I'm going to make it completely free of the key findings, right? So it'll probably be maybe 4 to 6 hours of me going through the key findings of the book. And I'm going to make that available to everyone who purchases the Kindle. And the Kindle will, when we launch, and again, February 24th is the tentative launch date on Amazon, will be like, I don't know. They have rules now at Kindle based on how big the book is. Like, so it might be $199, it might be $299. I don't know. They determine that now. And that'll be like that for a week because, you want to game the Amazon algorithm so that it becomes a bestseller and it gets way up in there. Now, obviously my books do that anyway, but I think what I'm going to do is like anybody who buys the Kindle in the first week will get access to the free video book, free version of the video book. And then eventually I'll make that for free on that same page that I gave you guys. But as you said, jcampbell.com has tons of amazing free content on peptides, bioregulators, small molecules, biolongevitylabs.com. If you guys want to purchase any of these amazing medications, peptides, bioregulator supplements, you can use the code JAYC. Janine, if you want to become an affiliate, I'll happily create a affiliate code for you too, so we can change that, and post that on the links when this broadcast runs. And then the last thing would just be, if you want to follow me on social media, I'm completely deleted now from Instagram. I've been deleted off of TikTok for 4 years. You'll laugh at this. There's 4 J Campbells on TikTok with actually huge followings. So they've just been gaming my profile and probably selling steroids or illegal underground stuff. I mean, who knows? I mean, every time people send me screenshots, I laugh. I'm like, yeah, that's not me. And they will not let me go on TikTok. Like, I'm not kidding you. Like, my name is persona non grata. If I attempt to start my own account on TikTok and they see my IP, instantly deleted.
Wow.
So the only place that I am actually freely able to transmit content, and when I say freely, meaning they don't suppress it, I'm completely invisible if you search me, is on X. So I have like 30,000 people that follow me on X, and I'm able to post a lot of really good content on peptides. So that would be the place to follow me. I am on Instagram right now, but I'm completely invisible. Like if you search J Campbell, it doesn't come up. You actually have to put J Campbell 333, and then they eventually make it show. But it's like at the bottom. And then, like my people say, like when you're that suppressed and shadow banned, that means you're over the target.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that means that you actually make a difference, and they got to block you from your content showing up. But honestly, Janine, thank you so much for having me on today. This is amazing. I'll be happy to come back and talk to you and your audience once the book is out and you have access to it. And I'll send you the PDF. I should have the PDF in like the next 3 days. So when we end this, like I'll get your cell phone number and we can text each other, and I'll make sure I send you the PDF so you can read it.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah, I'm going to nerd out. I will read from front to end on me.
Awesome.
That's how I do.
Oh, yeah, you're going to love it. I mean, it's so deep. You'll probably text me and you'll be like, bro, this is like exhausting. Like, couldn't you have cut some of this out? And we did. We cut 220 pages out.
I doubt it. I've been addicted to peptides for the last decade
Awesome.
plus, so I know I will geek out, like no doubt.
Yeah, it's awesome. And thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Jay. Thanks again for coming on.
Hey, fellow health junkie. Thanks for listening to the Health Fix podcast. If you enjoyed tuning in, please help support me to get the word out about the podcast. Subscribe, rate, and review, and just get that word out. Thanks again for listening.